This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back ranking. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up and
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncourt for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields, hello, Columbus, 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies for Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get them rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
What's going on, everybody? It is 8:30 Central Time, the coolest time zone in the world. Eastern Time's the fathers, brothers, nephews, cousins, former roommates of time zones. Did you get it, Austin? No.
No.
You
were right.
Get it
Before my time.
I am Matt Bruning. That is Austin Nace. That is Ray Garvin. On tonight's show, we are doing a draft day version. We have the King of Devy joining us, as you can see below me. We will be talking about who is the top pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And Felix is still out after he threw out his back blow drying his hair. So, Austin, we are giving away a jersey. Tell the listeners about it.
So we have a signed Javonte Williams jersey. Matt, are you going to Vanna White it here for us tonight? Or I do not have it on hand. There it is. All you lovely people that watch live. We are giving that away when we have 60 reviews on Apple Podcasts. I believe last time I had checked, I think we have like 53. So we're getting closer. We're only 7 away. So, you can go in there and say anything. You can say, you hate us, you love us. Just give us the review, give us the rating, and you'll be entered to win that.
Yes, once that happens, we'll do a drawing live on air like we did with the Kyler Murray jersey. So as I mentioned, Ray Garvin is joining us tonight, creator of Destination Devy and the Black Box Show. Ray, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us.
Appreciate y'all, man, having me here, man. Dope show that y'all produce, dope show that y'all put on. And I kind of joked with you, Bruning, before the show when you asked me to come on. Felix couldn't be here, so you had to find the other bald-headed black guy to bring on the show. It's all good, man. I still got love for you, man.
It just symmetry. It just happened. I didn't really think about it. It just worked. It just worked.
It just worked. Yeah.
We had Colin on last week, who's the whitest person ever. If that makes you feel better.
Yeah,
so.
we had to offset it a little bit. We had to bring in some knowledge and some fire content. You had me, Austin, and Colin on here. We're as vanilla as it comes. So let's just be honest. So
it's all good, man. Good. I really do enjoy the show, man. This is something I tune into, Bruning. Austin, ton of respect for y'all and what you guys have built with Campus to Canton. Oh my gosh. So appreciate you having me on.
Well, we appreciate the love. So on the 2022 draft special, as I said, we are going to be talking about A little bit of the 2022 draft. We all know, thankfully, that the 2021 NFL draft is kicking off tomorrow night. It'll be live right now, so we can stop discussing all of these fake narratives with these players. But with that being said, we're going to focus on 2022, which will be in your hometown of Las Vegas, Ray. And we're going to start with the quarterbacks. There's a lot of similarities in that 2022 class to this one. You've got a lot of talk about 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks right now. On the college side, people talk about could be first-round picks, but the big two are Rattler and Howe. Many believe those guys are the 1 and 2. Do you believe that, Ray? And do you have them ranked Rattler and Howe or Howe and Rattler?
Yeah, I do think those are the top 2 guys in the class at this moment. But, I think the past couple of years have taught us that every year there's going to be 1 or 2 potential guys that sort of come out of nowhere and pop. And, for those of us in Devy or CSC leagues, I think that's the ultimate key, is to find which one of those guys are going to pop, since everybody's on Rattler and Howe. But to answer the question, I have them right now, Spencer Rattler at 1 and Sam Howell at 2. I had Howell at 2, but after watching what Rattler did, a lot of people dog on his season last year. And I'm thinking, dog, he was a freshman who completed that. I don't have his stats pulled up in front of me, but I believe close to 70% completion percentage, 67% completion percentage as a redshirt freshman. I think he had 5 to 7 interceptions, something like that. Like nothing ridiculous, right? The dude is legit, man. His arm talent, we got a player in this class, Zach Wilson. I know Felix is a big Wilson fan. Dude was on him before everybody in the damn community. But Rattler's arm is on par, if not better, than what Zach Wilson possesses. It's just a flick of the wrist and it's downfield. So right now at this stage, I do have it Rattler, Howe, 1, 2.
Yeah, he had a 67.5 completion percentage with just 7 interceptions. So you were correct there. Austin, how many QBs do you see being viable QBs in this 2022 draft next year?
Yeah, Ray just said it perfectly. There's always a couple of guys that come out of nowhere, or, not always nowhere, but we think there's 1, 2, and there's probably going to be a lot more guys in that conversation come next year. A lot of people still like Keaton Slovis, had that rough year this year. We'll see if he can bounce back. You've got some of the toolsier guys in the class, like a Matt Corral, a JT Daniels, a Carson Strong, a Jaden Daniels. There's a lot of guys in that next tier. Desmond Ritter, I know some people like him a lot. Teams always need quarterbacks. This is not a shocking development. Yeah. There's always going to be, usually there's going to be too many taken in the first round for probably what deserve. People are talking about Kellen Mond possibly sneaking into the first round. A quarterback is just always going to be a commodity. So it wouldn't shock me to see a couple of these other guys stand up. I will say, I keep fading Sam Howell compared to Rattler. And then I watch him play, and it's like, this guy, he doesn't have all the tools. He's not quite the athlete that some of these guys are. He doesn't have the arm strength. The guy just knows how to play quarterback. You watched that spring game last weekend, and he had some freaking dimes. I just need to watch North Carolina every week so that I keep that in the back of my mind, because you see these toolsy guys, and Sam Howell is not that, but he's not, some scrub either.
Yeah, I think the reason I have Hal at 1 is just going to show my complete bias here. Is Ray does film breakdowns in his Patreon and everything, and he was doing UNC. It's probably a couple months ago now. At this point, he was looking at De'Ame Brown, Javonte, Michael Carter, and then he was watching some of Sam Howell's throws, and he's like, he kind of reminds me of Baker Mayfield. It's like, you know what? That's why I love him so much. I can't quit myself some Baker Mayfield.
He is. I think that's I'm not one for comping players. Yeah. I don't do that a ton. But I think that's fair, man. He's got this weird hitch in his throw, but the ball gets downfield, it gets to where it needs to go. What's crazy is coming out of high school, I think he was listed as a dual threat quarterback. And if you go to his very first game versus South Carolina, they tried to run him a lot on RPOs. And I'm like, this dude is not. He's not a dual threat quarterback. He's got some mobility, but stop Mac Brown. Stop trying to run him on RPOs. It's not his game. I think he's a solid quarterback, man. I think he's a solid quarterback, but and we didn't even, I know we threw JT Daniels down there a little bit later, and you still have players like Malik Willis out of Liberty. So it's going to be, and who should put up monster numbers this season playing against inferior competition. But right now, I think it's Howell and Rattler, and I think it's a break. I still am a Keaton Slovis fan. I like Slovis. I think he's going to be really good this season with Drake London there as his top dog. But I think it's those two cats at the top for sure.
So, Austin, I'll throw this one to you first. You guys both mentioned that a lot of these quarterbacks could easily jump up here. Maybe not with Rattler and Howe, but as you mentioned, a lot of teams are going to be looking for quarterbacks every single year. Out of the JT Daniels, Keaton Slovis, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong, who am I forgetting? Damn, there's someone I know I'm forgetting.
Grayson McCall.
Who's one of these guys that you think is going to, that you bet your money on right now? You're in a C2C draft and you're in whatever, the 7th, 8th round. I know a lot of these guys are going before then, but say they're all fading quarterbacks in the 7th, 8th round. Who's that one guy you're going to bet on to kind of rise up and get that high-end draft capital next year?
You didn't say my guy, which was Matt Corral.
I knew I forgot one. That's what I was trying to think of. So
yeah. So like, I don't love Matt Corral. I'll be completely honest, but I see enough there that I think if he has a good year and he improves a little bit on some of the decision-making things, that an NFL team will talk themselves into liking him more than they like some of these other guys. So maybe that's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I do think that's what's going to happen. The guy probably, I have a hard time saying these absolutes. He probably has the strongest arm in college football. The kid has an absolute cannon on him.
Whoa. Matt Corral?
Yeah. You think DJU, or who do you think has strongest arm in college football, right?
Nah. Corral doesn't have a stronger arm than Spencer Rattler, man. No way.
Interesting. Okay.
No way. No way.
That's fair. I think he pushes the ball downfield as well as any quarterback in college. And I can't put DJ in that category because we've only seen him do it for a game and a half. That's what I thought you were going to say, because I know he has a big arm as well, but not enough evidence there for me to say that. But regardless, I mean, is he any worse than a I kind of say he's like a Jameis Winston in college, where
that's who I kid you not. The whole time you were talking, I was like, Jameis Winston. And here's my thing with quarterbacks in college. This is my thing. Inaccurate quarterbacks who are turnover prone, bad decisions. Yes, that can be coached out to some degree at the next level. But a leopard just doesn't change his spots, man. Like that's completion percentage and decision making. Like Jameis made bad decisions at Florida State, but got away with it. Make ton of bad decisions in the NFL. And, while he was productive for us in fantasy, okay, you got a couple of years out of it, but now we see his ass is on the bench because he makes horrible decisions. Sam Darnold, I am the biggest USC Trojans fan that there is. And I was like, there's no way I would take Sam Darnold number one, because if you go back to especially his final season at USC, it was boneheaded decision after boneheaded decision after boneheaded decision. And while his arm was there and he had the mobility, he made badass decisions with the Jets. And I think he's going to make bad decisions with the Carolina Panthers. It's hard when that's been a quarterback's game for their entire life to just think that as soon as they get to the next level, that's all going to correct itself. Like when I was in law school, one of my criminal law professors told me the same people that show up late to class here in law school are the same ones that are going to show up to the courtroom late when they become an attorney. And that's, the shit holds true, man. So I like Corral. He's talented, but I think we're wanting him to be what he's not gonna be. Like if I'm wrong on this one and he ends up turning into Zach Wilson and make himself, a ton of money and move himself out of day 2, day 3 to a top pick, I'll come right back on this show and be like, man, I was dead ass wrong. But right now, I can't see that, because I don't think he's going to make good decisions next year.
Do you think an NFL team is going to fall in love with his skill set, though? Because I think he is. I think you buy him and then you try to pawn him off in a year or two, because I think he's going to jump up boards. I really, really do. I think teams are going to fall in love with his tools. But they haven't learned their lesson. If you just said they did it with Jameis and Darnold,
yeah, that's fair, 100% fair. And if that's what you're, because there's two sides of the coin, right? These players, you need players to help you win, but then you also need players as value, as currency to trade for other things. So I think you're spot on with that. I do think he's going to be, and if he starts the season off hot, we got to see who else they're going to throw to besides Mingo. But I do think that he's got that potential to kind of light it up and gain some value. He's definitely going to gain value this year, but I'm not feeling him as some high-end talent. Not right now.
Is there a quarterback outside of Rattler and Howell you'd bet your money on, Ray?
No.
No.
Not in 2022, man. I mean, we talked about it at the top of the show. Every year, Austin said it, man. Every year, teams are hunting for quarterbacks, so we'll know somebody. We're talking about fucking Davis Mills, man. Like, come on, like we're really discussing that. So of course they're going to be players, but like bet my money on, nah, man. I like Grayson McCall, and I think he's a good value in C2Cs right now, but he's at Coastal Carolina. Keaton Slovis, I do think he'll bounce back. I think he's got a ton of tools. But outside of Howell and Rattler, right now I'm just kind of like I'll just pass.
Davis Mills, Collins QB5, right? Isn't he big on Davis Mills? I could have swore he talked about that with Brandon on their latest episode.
I think he likes him more than like any of those other,
he likes him more than
that bucket of
NFL
black
teams,
that's just out there behind whatever.
All right, so moving on to the running backs. You got Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Eric Gray, Kyron Williams are the guys we are talking about the most. Ray, is the 2022 class a better class than we are giving it credit for?
Yes, absolutely.
Why? Do you compare it to, or we talk about Najee and Etienne are kind of the tops of this class, right? Javonte is in that discussion as well. But if Najee and Etienne would not have come back this past year, it would clearly be Javonte, and then this class would be, is it fair to say, complete crap? If Najee and Etienne would have come out last year, and neither one of them would have gotten the grades that we think they're going to get this year and being possible back-end first-round picks.
I'll just say this. I believe that if Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller were in the 2021 NFL draft, we'd be talking about them both as at worst RB3s. I would take both of those guys ahead of Javonte Williams. I think there's an argument. I know I asked the question to, some of my people, Ryan Lopes and some other guys. I was like, would you take Breece Hall over Najee Harris right now? And people were split on that. I heard some people were like, I'd take Breece RB1 in 2021. And I don't think Isaiah Spiller's that far behind Breece Hall for me. And when I watch Spiller and I turn off the tape, I'm like, damn, he's the RB1 in 2022. And then I'll turn on Breece Hall and be like, nah, it's Breece. But I think both of those guys, if they were in this class, at worst, the argument would be, RB3. I think there's real possibility that I'll take Breece over Etienne. I'm not the biggest Etienne fan, and potentially Isaiah Spiller over Etienne as well, who I think he's just fantastic. And the way that Spiller was able to improve his game just on tape, when you look at the burst from his freshman season to this past season, he looked like a completely different player for Texas A&M. So I do think the overall 2022 class is better than 2021. And you didn't even name my RB4 in that class, who I think is better than Kyron Williams. And I'm talking about Kevin Harris out of South Carolina, player that people ain't talking about enough. Kevin Harris is legit. And the fact that he wasn't supposed to do much because of Marshawn Lloyd, to go out there and rush for damn near 1,200 yards and then catch 20-plus passes in a shortened season in the SEC at 5'10", 5'11", 225, Kevin Harris, I think he's going to be a riser in this process as well.
All right, well, Ray just gave us a riser for him. Austin, is there a guy that you think outside of those top four could rise up and be with those guys? You've got, Jerry on Ely, who else? Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, Helani, Sincere McCormick, Noah Kane, Zonovan Knight. I know we've got a couple fans over at the side of Zonovan Knight. My guy, Raymond Davis, like any of those guys you think could possibly pop up. Maybe not be right there with Breece Hall and Spiller, because it does seem like everybody has those two kind of separated out, but maybe jump up with the Grays and Kyrons of the world and Kevin Harris.
The one thing that I do think the class is lacking beyond those top guys is like some sort of uber athletic sleeper. Like I can't think of a guy like in the next like 10 or 15 of my rankings for 2022 that is like that is just you're going to bet on his athletic upside and then watch him climb up the charts this year. I don't see a guy like that. Sincere McCormick is almost the exact opposite. I do like him, but I don't think I would put him in that tier, to be completely honest. So no. I know some people are really high on Zamir White. I can't get there. He's a total I have to see it to believe it kind of guy, and I have not seen it yet. So if he does it this year, then kudos to him coming back from all those injuries and stuff. But I can't believe it till I see it with him.
Well, with them talking about now, Najee and Travis Etienne or Javonte, they're saying now there might be 2 running backs to go in the first round tomorrow night. With just the way teams want to jump up and get that 5th round contract, I think everybody now in the fantasy industry talks about you want to get those running backs for their first contract, and you're just kind of done with them. So it seems like NFL teams are too trying to get those guys on those rookie contracts. Say 2 go tomorrow night. 2022, I know it's hard to predict because we don't know what running backs may be washed up in 1 year, how things may change. Did you see 1, 2, 3 running backs going in the first round next year, Ray?
At this point, probably not. If I were going to bet money, I'd say 1, and that would be Breece Hall if we were going to have 1. I think he's a bit more athletic than we're giving him credit for, but to Austin's point, I don't think we have any uber athletes in 2021, to be honest with you. When I'm thinking uber athlete, maybe my standard is way too high, but I'm thinking Saquon Barkley. Maybe that's too high of a threshold to meet, right? Like, honestly, maybe and I'm not even being, maybe that's too high of a bar. Like, Saquon is different, like as an athlete. But one player that we didn't discuss that I'm just telling y'all that I know it doesn't make sense, but I will never quit this player is Keontae Ingram. I'm still not, it's not, listen, it's not Keontae's fault that the best running back since Ricky Williams walked into the Texas program. It's not his fault, man. Like, I can't blame Keontae for transferring out when he looks to the left of his locker and he sees Bijan Robinson there. I can't blame him. He's got the size. He had the early freshman production. And at USC, he should have a chance to be the guy. Marquise Stepp is not very good. I know Keenan Christian's got speed. They got a couple other cats, but Keontae should put up big numbers this fall for USC. So when we're talking about a guy later, because I think I don't know what his ADP is, but I'm sure it has fallen off of a mountaintop, right? I still will not quit Keontae Ingram until he retires from the game of football. I will always be a Keontae Ingram fan.
Does it worry you at all how bad it appears that USC offensive line is going to be? I mean, they gave up 8 sacks, and I know it's a spring game where you can sneeze on the quarterback and they're going to call it as a sack, but still, they gave up 8 sacks in the spring game. There's a lot of talks that offensive line is not going to be very good. Does that worry you at all for Keontae Ingram and his stock? Maybe just for the college side, if you believe he'll be good in the NFL, but the college side and producing this year in 21.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, it's college football, man. I mean, as bad as their defensive line is pretty damn good on the other side of that coin, USC. And I mean, it's college, man. Cats get lazy. You're good for some pops here and there. So, I mean, it worries me, but not to the extent like it would in the NFL where those dudes are really scheming defensive line concepts, linebacker twists. To a certain degree, yes. I mean, and then to a certain degree, not really. It's college and spring games. They're not opening it up. They know it's recorded. It's a condensed version of an offense. So talk to me after a couple of weeks during the season. But what I do want to pitch to you guys real quick, and it wasn't on the show sheet, and this is what I do. I just start talking, right? Values at the running back position change so quick in Devy and C2C. Remember a couple of years ago, John Emery Jr., and I was in Devy drafts, and that dude wasn't escaping the first round. John Emery, Noah Cain, Ricky Slade, all these cats, man. It's just something to think about how quick Keontae Ingram, just how quick shit can change in the college game, especially at these skill positions.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here because I drafted a freshman very high. We're in the middle of a C2C startup right now. But that's why I try to go for guys who've already proven it because I don't want to take a shot on those freshmen because I took a shot on Travion Henderson. And I think he is going to be phenomenal, and he may go to Ohio State and shit the bed, but I don't think that happens. But I'm with you. I think I'm taking those guys that have already proven it and continue to prove it on the college level. We've seen, I mean, as Austin can speak to, who's in this draft as well, it's been a weird draft with the way some of this goes, but that's the way C2C drafts are. In essence, Devy, like you were just talking about, some people just get high on these freshmen and they take them high. To answer your question on Keontae Ingram, it's not as low as I thought it was. So he dropped a little bit. In February, his ADP was 106, and then in March, it was at 128. So he's going in the 10th round currently. which is not bad. I still think that you're getting a guy you're expecting to produce in the NFL. So it's still pretty good value, I think, for him. And maybe a guy I'll take here in the next couple rounds. I do need to make my pick here in a minute anyways. But Austin, oh, never mind. I asked you that question. We're gonna move on. Wide receivers, 21. Appears to have some depth. Oh, well, I think Ray's pretty much already answered that, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyways. Najee or Brees?
What is this from
It's from Boz. That's from our good friend Boz.
No. Is this, can I answer I take Najee. Let me stop hedging. I take Najee over Brees.
Austin, do you agree with that? I know you I don't think you like either one of them.
Yeah, I don't love either one because I think I've almost talked myself into Spiller over Hall going into 2022.
Oh, I like that. That.
Like every morning I wake up and it's just a little bit more. And eventually someday he's going to jump.
He's good, right? Yeah. He's legit, man.
Well, the thing about him, and I agree with you, and I said I didn't really like him after freshman year. Sophomore year, he looked smaller, but he's listed heavier, which means he put in the work to get his body right, the right weight distribution, all that kind of stuff, packed on some muscle, lost some of that fat. It just looked had a lot more bursts. I think the sky's the limit with him, man. He's a little bit bigger. He's so physical, great contact balance. He can catch the ball. I just really, really like him. So that has nothing to do with the question we asked here. Oh, man.
Anytime we talk about Breece Hall, it always comes up to be Spiller's better than him, and so is Bijan. I'm like the last one holding on to the Breece Hall rope here. It's ridiculous.
So this show is Spiller over Hall. This is a Spiller over
for
Hall
the
show?
most part. Yeah, we did our running back ranking summit. Was that probably a month ago now? And I think I was the only one who had Breece still at 1 over Bijan, but it was like a slight edge. My biggest thing with running backs is I want him in the NFL as quick as possible. So even though it's only 1 year, I still get Breece 1 year, and I still think he's going to produce on the college side this year. But Felix has Breece Hall as the 6th or 7th best running back in college, which I think is asinine, but that's neither here nor there because I trust Felix. He knows what he's talking about. Dude is smart, but Austin was on that thing doing the same thing, the waffling back and forth. And I'm like, but Spiller's just so damn good. I'm like, no, guys, don't give up on Breece just yet.
But I don't think it's given up because I felt the same way. I said the same thing. I was like, man, it's razor thin for me. When I just watched Spiller play, and I'm a film guy. I don't really know that. I don't have the numbers. I know you need to catch the ball as the running back, but he moves like a professional running back. The same reasons why I like Najee Harris, they're the same reasons why I like Spiller. And for me, they're kind of similar in the sense that neither of them have true home run ability. There was a play I think in 2019 where Spiller ripped off like a 50-something yard run versus UTEP or some school like that, and he almost got walked down. He made it to the end zone, but he almost got walked. He's not, but that's Najee, right? And in the NFL, you don't have to be Chris Johnson in order to be effective, man. We see so many running backs that aren't uber athletes that are legitimate NFL running backs. So I'm just glad that I have allies on this show that also feel that Spiller is right there, if not better than Breece Hall. And if Eric Gray were a little bit better, I've been all over Eric Gray for the past 2 seasons. I just think if he had a little more size to him, because they got him listed at 5'10", 205. Yeah. I'm looking at him in the spring game, and I'm like, maybe. So if he's listed at 5'10", 205, he's 5'9", 198, 5'9", 200. I just don't know if that archetype is a viable staying 3-down back at the NFL, but I love Eric Gray as well. I think this 2022 class is talented, man. I think it's talented. And we didn't talk about Bam Knight. We didn't talk about Tyler Goodson. We didn't talk about Raymond Davis. I think it's a solid. I think it's a deeper class, even if it doesn't have the higher end talent as 2021.
Well, I want to stick on Eric Gray then for a minute because there's a lot of debate about him, right? It seems like there's a divide in the community on him. Either you like him or you don't like him. I was on the Devy Marketplace with Kane and Shane recently, and my biggest thing with Eric Gray is I I like him, but I kind of what you were just saying there, Ray, is I'm not 100% sold on him. And I kind of think almost like what Austin brought up with Corral is the way I'm attacking Eric Gray, where I think he'll produce enough at Oklahoma this year that someone's going to think he's going to be like the top or the second best running back in that class, and I'm going to sell him at top dollar. Do you agree with that, Austin, or are you all in on Eric Gray?
I'm not all in on Eric Gray, no. I think he's fine. I mean, basically how Ray feels is how I feel about him. I just don't think he's – I don't want to say this and someone's going to like send a clip to me or something on Twitter, but I don't think he's consistently great in any facet of being a running back. I think there are flashes where you see him, he had that run in the spring game last week where he had that dead leg in the open field and shook that safety.
He does have a nasty dead leg.
But like, I don't think he's consistently great between the tackles. I don't see him being consistently super dynamic in the open field to think that maybe he just translates as a pure pass catcher. I don't know. There's just something missing there. I wish that he could put it all together. And maybe Oklahoma will let him do that. It's a better team than Tennessee in pretty much every single way.
So that would be the only thing that I say, Austin, to you on that, because I don't think you said anything that's not valid or true. But give the kid an opportunity to do that. And I don't think he even had an opportunity at Tennessee to do that, man. I mean, they got Ty Chandler, who's been there for 80 years, still trying to give him the ball. Jared Guantanamo Bay, whatever his name is, throwing the ball. I mean, it was just Tennessee was terrible. Watching them play was, you might as well rip your eyes out. But when they gave him the volume and they gave him the work, he produced. And in limited opportunity this fall, I mean, he was fantastic. And I can't, I don't extrapolate numbers out. And part of it, I think that's kind of a frivolous exercise in the first place. But over 700 rushing yards on, sub 200 carries, and then he had 30 receptions. Like, I think the tools are there, but he's got to be given the opportunity to do more. And I just don't think he's had the opportunity to do more. So this fall is going to be really telling. Can he hold off Kennedy Brooks and Seth McGowan to get enough of that volume and that workload to do something special? But here's the thing. I think Eric Gray is a very good athlete, so he's going to test well, and that's going to help his stock right then and there. But I am a big Eric Gray fan right now, and I got him as my RB3 in 2022.
Okay. Yeah, I think he will have a very good season. I mean, I know none of us here are big Ramondre Stevenson guys, and look at just how well he produced in that offense last year. I think it's fair to say Eric Gray is 10 times more athletic than him. And Kennedy Brooks, and I'm sure some of it is just him opting out last year due to the health concerns and everything with COVID, but he just did not look good at all in that spring game. And I wonder how much of that is being out a year of football and trying to come back and work in. So I do think Eric Gray is going to be in for a good year. If you decide you want to sell him, I think you're going to be able to get your value for him. But if you want to keep him, I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. Maybe it's more of, like Austin said with Zamir White, I have to see it. I can't buy in. And especially with as high as he's going in C2C drafts. I mean, he went in the second round the other day. That's just I can't.
What?
Yeah, he went ahead again, I'm high on Travion Henderson, but yeah, he went in that 2. What was that? Also, it was like 2-1, right?
Zamir White?
No, Eric Gray. Sorry, Gray. No, not White. No, Zamir White didn't go to like the 7th round or something like that. No, Eric Gray.
I like Gray too, but I'm not taking him at 2-1. No.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the wide receivers. This is the 2021 class has been talked about for what feels like a year, how good it was going to be. And as we got through some of the season, the testing numbers, kind of people have come up and down on some of these wide receivers. It's really kind of locked in, I think, there's at least a consensus for, right? It's Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, and for most people, Rondale Moore is still up there. I know a lot of people are worried about his size, but but a lot of people don't have Bateman up there. That's why there's a lot of people I know who are faded Bateman down to like wide receiver 10. So that's why I know most people have Rondale Moore somewhere in those top 6, even with his size. So I think those are kind of the consensus top guys. But next year, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, David Bell, and I know George Pickens got hurt, but he's got all the skill there. Both of you two were one of the first guys on the Treylon Burks train. You guys have been hyping him up for as long as I can remember. Ray, how do you rank these guys in the 2022 class at wide receiver?
Burks, Wilson, Bell, Pickens, Olave. I think that's 6. I'll just give you 6. That's where I have them right now. I got Burks, Wilson, Bell as my top 3 guys.
Austin, how do yours come in? Okay. Go ahead, Ray.
No, go. I'll answer the question. I was about to elaborate, but I want to hear Austin's.
Okay.
I think it really. I do think that Burks has the most upside. I mean, he's clearly the best athlete. He weighs more than all of them. He's bigger than all of them. He's faster than all of them. He's versatile. They play him, slot, backfield. He can play any of the 3 starting wide receiver positions. I think Pickens is the best pure wide receiver out of the group. I really, really do. But the knee injury is concerning. He didn't do anything for half of last year. Granted, I am pretty much the biggest hater on whatever Stetson Bennett, DeJuan Mathis combination they wanted to throw out there last year. So I want to say he's the best pure receiver out of the group. I just don't know. The one that I don't like as much as everybody else, and I just don't quite get it, is David Bell. Like, I think he's good. I just don't love anything that David Bell does. Do you feel the same way, Ray? I mean, you had him relatively low in that group.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think he's good. I literally just recorded a show about 2022 guys, and I had David Bell. I had him at 3, at wide receiver 3, and I think what I'm leaning on, and I'm such a fraud film guy, because with all the film that I like, listen. Like, the fact that he produced the way that he did as a true freshman is pretty impressive. I mean, you can't over 1,000 yards as a true freshman when he really wasn't even supposed to do that. I'm not going to take that away from the kid. He's sort of like, and I am not comping him to this player, but the play style reminds me like Michael Thomas. Like, it's nothing special, right? But if he gets the volume and he gets fed, he's going to catch the ball. He's going to be where he needs to be. He's not an elite athlete. He doesn't make he's just a good wide receiver, right? Like, I think he's going to have that same draft path as Rashad Bateman, like, where people love him going all through the college season. He's going to put up big numbers. And then as the process goes on and they start to see how athletic Treylon Burks is and how freaky of an athlete Garrett Wilson is, and how George Pickens returns from his ACL injury and he's still George Pickens, I think people are going to see those guys, and then it's not going to be because Bell did anything wrong, but I think he will work his way down, sort of the ranks. I'm with you, Austin. He's fine. He's a good wide receiver, man. He's a good wide receiver. I like him. I don't love him. There are only 2 wide receivers in this class that I absolutely love, and one that is on pause because of the injury, and that's George Pickens. But I love Treylon Burks. Like, everything about what he does, even to the fact that at 230 pounds, they had him returning punts and kicks. That's dynamic to be that big. And I know it sounds crazy. When he was returning punts, this is how he was catching the damn ball. Like this, like he was like grabbing it out of the air. He wasn't like cradling he's like grabbing it out of the sky is how he was returning punts, man. But his size and playing with probably the worst quarterback group in the SEC to produce what he did, still commanding over 30% of the market share of receptions and receiving yards last season with KJ Jefferson and Hornsby. I know people want him to be something, and Felipe Franks at 6'3", and he dropped weight. He dropped weight this spring to 224. They play him in the slot, man. Like, go watch Arkansas. Like, I know it's not fun, but if for those people who don't really know, like, he can line up all over, but he primarily plays in the slot, and he just destroys people in there. He's too big. He's too fast. He's too long. His body control is outstanding. I think he's the most athletic outside of Garrett Wilson, but size adjusted athlete in the class at the wide receiver position.
So you said that you love two, which I'm assuming are Burks and Wilson. Is that kind of your tier one right now, or do you have all five? I know you named six. I would assume Olave is not in tier one, but are all six of those guys five guys? Is it just those two? How does your tier one shape up before you cut it?
I still think I have Pickens, Bell, Burks, and Wilson as my tier one guys.
Austin, what about you?
It's the exact same way. Those four are my tier one. Yep.
Do you guys see any shot that someone, again, we know players are going to break out every single year, but a guy who maybe put on a little bit of a show last year, Drake London, we just mentioned earlier, you got Jadon Hazelwood, Theo Weiss, Jake Smith, Trey Knox, his teammate there at Arkansas, Birkin's teammate at Arkansas, you've got John Mechie, Wan'Dale Robinson. Any of these guys jump up, maybe not in the tier one with those top two guys, but the top of tier two? Go ahead,
Austin.
Sure. I think London is going to be a trendy pick just because he's so, he's in that Mike Evans, spectrum of player. I don't know how I feel about him yet, but he did look really good in the spring game again, and he looked pretty solid last year. The only other guy, I do think that if Boston College has a decent year, I think Zay Flowers could creep up into the Olave tier. I don't think he'll hit tier one, but I think he could be considered that level of a player. Has decent size, just under 6 feet, I believe. Looks like a pretty good athlete. Produced really well last year. Looked great again in the spring with Jerkovic. He's going to be the guy there. I don't know if he hits that tier one, but I think he's a guy that could creep up by the time we're talking about this next offseason.
Oh, this is actually a really interesting question. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Ray. Is the 2022 tier one receivers better than the 21 tier one receivers?
No. Okay. Well, no. I've only got 3 guys in 2021 in tier one. It's Smith, Waddle, Chase. I don't think any of these guys are better than Chase. And I don't think Burks is a better wide receiver than Devonta Smith, but he's bigger. And he's fucking good, right? So anybody who said Burks over Smith, I'm not going to argue that one. But I would take Smith over Wilson. I'd take Waddle over Wilson. But I think it would be those 3, and then we can start to have the conversation about Burks and Bell and Wilson. But I think Chase is better than all of them. I think Smith is a better wide receiver than all of them at this point. Yeah, man. And Austin, to your pick, Drake London, I lied. I have him in tier one. He is a tier one guy for me. And I think a key to remember about Drake London is as good as he's looked in limited opportunity, this is going to be his first full season focusing on football. He played basketball for USC for the past 2 years. So he wasn't even fully committed. And every time they just throw it to him, he's just beasting over folks. And at 6'5", 210, 215, this is what the 2022 class offers that 2021 doesn't offer. Think about this. When I was doing my rankings, I was like, man, Chris Olave is small. They got him listed at 6'1", 189. That's only 11 pounds lighter than Jamar Chase, who's one of the bigger wide receivers in 2021, right? These dudes are big. Burks is huge. Bell is 6'2", 2+. London is 6'5". Garrett Wilson's not very big, but you go down the list, there's some other large wide receivers in this class. So I did want to sneak a little bit of love in there for Drake London. And a guy that we also didn't talk about that I think will be a hot name is Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama. I thought he was a guy that could have potentially declared here in 2021. So to see him go back, he's probably going to smash. We still got C.J. Johnson at East Carolina, who's another big wide receiver. He was kind of a Devy darling going into this season, and then it just kind of fell apart for ECU. But these receivers in 2022 are kind of nice, man.
Yeah, and Trey Knox there at Arkansas is also, I think, 6'5". So him and Burks both really big guys, although Knox had a kind of a down season there as well at Arkansas. So we've only got a couple more minutes before Ray's got to get out of here. So there's a very interesting question I want to ask you guys. And when I ask this question, people understand that when I say this, Ray doesn't hate Bijan, but you're kind of you're nitpicking at the top here. So I looked at your ranks because I am part of your Patreon, and you have Tank ranked over Bijan. I'm just curious as to why.
I don't. I do.
You changed
not. I changed it like 2 weeks ago.
Did you? Well, I don't know why it didn't update
Go
on
look
mine.
at-
So we all love
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson. I did not answer that question. I did not ask that question.
But for the spirit of the question, I just think that I'm trying to understand how people can just say right now he's the clear cut, not even a conversation, top running back in Devy, C2C, college football, whatever you want to call it, because Tank Bigsby was outstanding in a far more difficult conference with nothing around him, right? And I know Texas didn't have a lot of NFL talent, but Sam Ehlinger is an experienced college quarterback, right? Who takes pressure off of defenses because he runs the damn ball, not because of his arm. But I don't think I've got three guys in that tier. In tier one, it's Bijan, it's Gibbs, and it's Tank Bigsby. And I think they all do different. They do things differently, right? But I think all of those guys are outstanding running back prospects. And while I have Tank ahead of Tank, I have Bijan ahead of Tank. All I'm saying is I don't think it's that as big as a gap as a lot of people want to make it seem. I do not. I mean, Bigsby's the best running back in the SEC coming into the fall. Like, he's by far, in my opinion, he's the top dog in the SEC. And I say that over Isaiah Spiller. I love Spiller. I want to see how Spiller reacts to Devon Achane, however you pronounce his last name, who got a ton of volume towards the end of the season and is a different player than Isaiah Spiller. He's a speed guy, right? I don't know how people just look at him and they're like, not even in the same tier as Bijan Robinson. And I'm not arguing against Bijan. I'm advocating for the other two. And I think I forgot who tweeted it out, but they basically talked about Jahmyr Gibbs' freshman season as one of the best freshman seasons, given his workload, which was minimal, that we've seen in quite some time. And I think he's a dynamic running back as well. But I love Bijan Robinson, man. I'm down here in Texas. You know I love Bijan, man. I got the Ricky Williams jersey on the wall. I like Bijan, man.
Was it it was a DLF guy, I think, because we were talking about that in our Slack channels. I think he it was like Bijan, Gibbs, and somebody else on one of the Jarek's charts matched up with Saquon on like how good their years were. So yeah, I mean, I know Austin's a massive Jahmyr Gibbs fan as well. So I have him ranked currently, I think Bijan, Tank, and then Gibbs. And I'll say I know a guy that a lot of people are sleeping on that running back class that I really like has not gotten a shot is Kendall Milton. I actually think he could jump up there with those three. He's not going to get a shot this year with Zamir White being there, but I really like Milton. So last one before we get out of here, because Ray has got to go, and I want him to be able to plug all of his stuff. Give me like one or two sleepers, however many you want to give me, 2022, 2023, because we've kind of already talked about a lot, but I want a little bit more out of you guys. Both of you guys are two of the, you guys break down more film than some people I know. You're both really good at that shit. You dive deep. You're bringing up players that like I remember, I'll just use this as an example. I went in and was watching huddle film for the incoming freshman class at one point, and I sent out a message to our group. It was like, damn, man, this Peter Costelli kid going to Utah is good. And Austin's like, yeah, I mentioned him like 4 months ago. So yeah, okay, well, fuck you, Austin. All right, I was trying to be like, I unearthed some diamond, and you guys have already found those guys like 4 months ago. So give us some names that we can look into that we'll be talking about when that 2021 college football season rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've named anybody on this show that's a sleeper, man. Y'all are degenerates. Like, you dive deep, you know all of these guys, right? But a couple of players that I really like. One of them will be a part of the 2022 draft class, and I mentioned him a second ago, is Anaya Smith out of Texas A&M. He's not a running back. He's more wide receiver than running back, but he's got an ability to, take some handoffs out of the backfield. He's just a dynamic player. And I think he's going to be one of those guys as we go through the draft process next year for 2022 that people are going to fall in love with. I think Anaya Smith is what everybody wanted Demetric Felton to be and better. A player like that, he's going to be so landing spot dependent, right? Like, Anaya Smith is going to have to go to the right team that knows how to use him. But the skill set that he has, I'm a big Anaya Smith fan, big Anaya Smith fan. And then I also, I talked a little bit about Jalen Tolbert. I kind of like ruined my thunder with that one because I think Jalen Tolbert, has a chance to put himself in consideration to be one of the, at least the top, let's say top 12 wide receiver in 2022 with room to potentially move up. Another player that I really like that's going to get a big opportunity to shine. And I was drafting this kid as an incoming freshman because of his high school highlight tapes. But Jermaine Burton, y'all, like if you haven't gotten on the Jermaine Burton train yet, you better hurry up because it's going to leave the station. Burton is a dog. And the fact that he was able to command the type of targets that he did as a true freshman alongside George Pickens, now that Pickens isn't there with JT Daniels in the picture, I forgot the other wide receiver that they had that he hurt himself, so I don't think he's playing this year. But big fan of Jermaine Burton. So again, no sleepers. Y'all know who all these cats are, but really excited to see Burton play, excited to see Jalen Tolbert, and then my man Anais Smith out of Texas A&M.
All right. Well, Ray, thank you for taking time out of your day in the middle of a tornado over here in Texas to jump on and talk a little college football with us. If, for whatever reason, anybody listening or watching is living under a rock and doesn't know where to find you, let everybody know where they can find you, everything you've got going on.
Man, find me on Twitter at RayGQ, patreon.com/allgas. Y'all know where I'm at. Find me there. I got to ask y'all something before I get out of here, though. I asked Jared Wackerly this. I'm trying to figure out this quarterback situation at Ohio State. Is CJ Stroud the truth? Like, I watched him, right? And I get it's just the spring game. He looks good to me. And I preface this by saying, I know this is the most ludicrous thing to say, but I think we give NFL scouts and evaluators more credit than they probably deserve. But I think the reason why these speculations and accusations of Justin Fields slipping, I think it's because of the Ohio State quarterback BS. Maybe somebody's believing in that in front offices because it can't be on-field production. So I preface that by saying, A, is CJ Stroud that good? And B, if he is that good, is he going to be pushed down because of that ridiculous narrative? I need to know about CJ Stroud before I get out of here. My wife is probably like, I don't care. Tell me about CJ Stroud.
I'll let Austin answer this because I feel like my answer is biased. So, I mean, I'll give my answer, but I'll let you go first.
Go. You're the Ohio State fan, Matt. I mean, I slightly prefer Stroud just because I think it's a hard situation for a freshman to come in and overtake a kid like that. But
Stroud is amazing. And I think the biggest thing that worries me, or I think is a good thing for him as well, is he, just like you talked about with Drake London, he was not committed to actually being like a quarterback until his like junior year in high school. So he's still, I think, learning the quarterback position. I do think obviously having Ryan Day in that offense is going to help him. I will say, well, did Jared say CJ Stroud?
He said he didn't know. He was like, he said he didn't know enough about him. That's what he said.
I will say, and I don't know if you've got the time, go back and watch that spring game again and tell me if you really think CJ Stroud was the better quarterback, because I don't think he was. And I think the quarterback that's the better quarterback on that roster is not going to win the job because he's a freshman this year. CJ Stroud, I did not give enough credit to this, and Austin brought it up earlier in the year, and he was right. CJ Stroud was in that offense all last year. He was able to, from everything I've heard, that dude would like followed Fields around like a puppy, and he tried to absorb everything Fields did. And that's helpful. That's, anybody, you've played in college, learning that stuff, especially from someone like Fields, who's special, that helps you on field. So I think Stroud is going to get the job, and I do think he is a very, very good quarterback. I don't like that they're comparing him to Fields because I don't think that they're the same player, but I do think he's going to be very good for the college side, and I'm sure he is going to get the same crap thrown at him when he ends up coming out into the NFL, but I do think he'll be very good. But draft Kyle McCord, baby. Draft Kyle McCord. All right, Ray, I know you got to go. I don't want to hold you up anymore. We really do appreciate you jumping on with us, taking some time. Good luck tomorrow. And if you guys want, I know you're with the Podfather tomorrow, right? I saw that, correct?
Yeah.
For the draft coverage. So check them out if you guys want to jump on their draft coverage. I'm sure they'll be rocking it for whatever that shit goes for 4 or 5 hours tomorrow. But again, thank you, Ray, so much. Have a great night.
Thank y'all for having me, man. Appreciate it, man.